All right, so today we're going to talk all about knives. They are the most important piece of equipment in your kitchen. A good sharp knife, nothing will replace it. I'll talk about all kinds of things. How to cut, of course, how to choose a knife, how to sharpen a knife or hone a knife, and lots of other things, because when you use a knife in the kitchen, you want to be as safe as you can so that not too many accidents will happen. I enjoy knives. I've been collecting them over the years. They're kind of like shoes for me. Some women like shoes. I like knives. And because I'm a cook, so why not? All right, let's get to the knife work. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is how to store your knives. One way that a lot of people like to store their knives is over here in a knife block, because a knife block is usually made out of wood, and that's good for the blade of the knife. It doesn't get them dull. It keeps them all in one place, and this can be moved about. Also, I like to keep my knives on a magnetic strip, because not only is that a good place for them, it's out of children's reach. I don't have any small children at home anyway, but it gets to display the knives, and I've been collecting knives for a while. Okay, so knives can come from different places, and mine come from different places too. For example, these two knives here are both Japanese knives. These two right here, Japanese knives. What's great about Japanese knives is they're incredibly sharp and they're very beautiful to look at. If you can see, it has that hammered edge there. That's why I really like this knife, because it has that beautiful hammered edge, beautiful handle, great knife. Put that back. Now this knife was made in Brooklyn, New York. And this knife was made by a master craftsman, knife maker. And this is one of my favorites too. You can see the beautiful detail on the handle. This is a lovely knife, fairly expensive, lovely knife right here. I'm going to put this back. Now this knife is a German knife. And this knife is actually, this is my son's knife. I told my son when he was little that when he turned 12, I would buy him a good knife. So he turned 12 several years ago, and I bought him this German knife, and he really enjoys this knife. It's a German knife, and he uses it whenever he cooks. Okay, so if we were in class, this is the knife we would use. These two black handled knives are identical. These are both Swiss knives. Actually, these three knives are identical. It's just this one has a different handle. This one has a wood handle. But I'll show you this knife. This is my workhorse knife. This is a Swiss knife. It's a Victorinox Swiss knife. This knife is only about $50. It's the least expensive knife that you can see here. And I love the feel of it. How do you know when a knife is right for you? It has to feel good in your hand. And this knife feels so good in my hand. Okay, it's like, feels like a glove. It's just the best feel that I like. And I do everything with this knife right here. And all these guys are chef's knives. Those are all called chef's knives. Now this knife right here, really beautiful knife. This is another Japanese knife. Now this knife has the jagged edges there. That's called a serrated edge. And this knife is mainly used for cutting things like bread. Like a tough French baguette of bread, because this is like a saw, like a carpenter's saw. It also has a really gorgeous, oh, there it is. There's the symbol right there. Has a really gorgeous handle too. I'll put this back. And this little knife, another Japanese knife. This is called a paring knife. Okay, so this is for small jobs, but this also beautiful handle right there. So whatever knife that you use, it should feel good in your hand. A good knife is not going to be cheap, okay? But this knife, the one that I was showing you, my workhorse, that's only about $50, which in the world of knives is a really good deal, okay, for a knife. Other knives can cost much more, but you can get, and I'll tell you how to get that lovely Victorinox knife. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to hold a knife, the proper way to hold a knife. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some not good ways to hold a knife. And one not good way to hold a knife is to hold it down here like this with a curled up fist like that, okay? This gives you zero control. Now, a lot of people will hold a knife like this with their index finger, their pointer finger on the blade of the knife, not the blade, but this part of the knife. That's not good either, okay? The way to hold a knife, and watch any cooking show, you'll see all the chefs do it like this, is what I call the pinch grip. So my finger is on this side, my thumb is on that side. I'm pinching the actual blade of the knife. My other 3 fingers go right over there, right under this thing. That's how you hold the knife. Thumb here, that's one side, that's the other side. Whether you're right-handed or left-handed, that's how you hold the knife. You get the best control this way. It's the safest. You get the most power from holding it this way. So no matter what way you're holding a knife now, try to transition to holding it this way, the correct way. I didn't always hold a knife like this. Nobody really showed me when I was younger, until finally someone did, and I went, oh wow, this feels weird. But then after a while, this is the most comfortable thing, and it will be for you too. So hold the knife right. Okay, so whenever you use a knife, you have to use a cutting board. You never cut directly on a countertop. Always, always with a cutting board. Now you can see here I have some different cutting boards, and I'll tell you what the kind that I think are the best. The best cutting boards are made of plastic like this. Or silicone. Sometimes they can be thinner than this, but these are great because you can wash these in the dishwasher, and they take a lot of abuse for the knife, and they're good, and they're cheap too. So this is what I use in my classroom. There's also wooden boards. This is actually my favorite texture, is a wooden board. And let me show you something. If your board is kind of slippery slidey here, as you can see, I have tile at my house and it doesn't really hold a board very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a damp paper towel under this board like this. Now it doesn't move anymore. The last thing you want when cutting with a knife is a board that's wiggling around. Okay, let's see, actually, let me show you. I also like, this is a very big board. Some boards are small. Your board should be at least diagonally at least as big as your knife. Like this board here, this is a beautiful wood board, but it's barely as big as the knife is diagonal. So this we use for other things. I will show you this board. Somebody made me this board. My brother actually made this board, and it says, "Keep your station clear or I will kill you," from Colette, the sous chef in the movie Ratatouille. So that was really sweet of him to get me that board. But what you don't want in a board, you don't want boards that are made of glass or ceramic or anything breakable, and those can be more expensive too. A good wood board is probably going to be around $30 to $50, and a good plastic board like we use in the classroom, these are probably about $15. But you want to have a good board, you want to have a board that's big enough, and you also want to have a board that's anchored down, and I use a damp paper towel for that. All right, so that's about boards. Okay, so if your knife isn't sharp, especially if it's really not sharp, if it's dull, it's worthless. Okay, a knife has one job to do, and it's to cut food. If it can't do that, it's not worthwhile to you. It's like if you have a great car, but all the tires are flat, you have to get that fixed before the car is as functional as it can be. And we will talk about how to hone a knife and how to get a knife sharpened. But here's how to tell if your knife at home is sharp or not. Here's how you do it. Take a piece of paper, just basic printer paper, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold it in half, and with my nail, I'm gonna give it a very nice edge there. Okay. And I'm gonna use my Cut Brooklyn knife to do this, all right? So, watch what happens. If your knife is very sharp, it should be able to slice right through the paper. Okay, can you see that there? Right through the paper, just like that. If your knife is super sharp, that's what it will do. Now, if your knife isn't very sharp, if your knife kind of doesn't have a chance on the paper, then you need to do something about that. And there's a couple things that I'm going to show you to improve a knife's sharpness, because you want a sharp knife. A sharp knife is safer than a dull knife. Even if that sounds contradictory, is 100% true. Okay, so what I'm going to show you how to do now is how to keep a sharp knife sharp. And for that, you're going to use this tool. Now, this tool is usually in a knife block. When you buy a knife block full of knives, you get one of these. Sharpening steel is what this is. And you probably have one of these at home. You might, but you might not know how to use it. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use it, how to keep a sharp knife sharp. Now, the sharpening steel, it cannot turn a dull knife into a sharp knife, okay? Professional sharpening will do that, but not this. But what it will do is it'll take a knife that's sharp, like this one, okay? But I've used this a little while. It needs a little refresher with the sharpening steel. So I'm going to hold it up like this, okay? And I'm going to take my knife, and I'm going to hold my knife next to it in a 22-degree angle. Now, you might wonder, well, I don't know what that means. Let me show you, okay? So this right here is a 90-degree angle, okay? You can see 90-degree angle. So half of that is a 45-degree angle, and half of that is about a 22-degree angle. This is what we're looking for. The knife is not flat up against it. The knife is right about here. Okay, so watch what I do next. I'm going to take the knife and start from the very bottom of the knife, and I'm just going to sweep it along like that. And then I'm going to do the other side. This might actually be easier for you to see. Now, you don't have to do this fast, okay? You just have to do it right. I like to hone my knife every time I use it. Don't wait too long, or a sharp knife can become a dull knife. Now, I like to do mine holding it up in midair, but watch. All that's going to happen is the same thing's going to happen. It's just going to happen up here instead of down there. Same thing. Notice the knife is moving, the sharpening steel is not moving. Okay, now what did I do? I just flipped my wrist. Now I'm going to do the other side. You want to do an equal number of sides on each, an equal number of swishes of the knife on each side. Generally, I'll show you how I do mine every single time I use the knife, and see if you can find a pattern. Here we go. Okay. Did you figure out my pattern? I did 5 on one side, 5 on the other, then 4 on one side, 4 on the other, then 3, then 3, then 2, then 2, then 1. That way it's automatic, and I do the same number on each side. So doing this will help keep a sharp knife sharp, but again, it cannot bring a dull knife to life. To bring a dull knife to life, you basically have to take it to a professional sharpening service, which I will talk to you guys about at some point. Okay, so we're going to do some basic cutting here. For one thing, when you're using a knife, always wear closed-toed shoes. Don't cut barefoot or with sandals, because that's dangerous. By the same token, if you have the knife in your hand and it falls, get out of the way, let it fall. Okay, don't try to catch it midway. Okay, and when you're using your board, don't be way down here with little space. You should have a nice big board. Utilize the space. Remember, you're holding the knife correctly like that, okay? Now, when your other hand is holding food, your fingers should be clawed like this. If your fingers are out like this, Okay, they're right there in the path of the knife and it's dangerous. You should claw your fingers like that when you cut. Now, the method that I'm going to show you is this. Look at the motion that my whole arm, show my whole arm, that my whole arm is doing. My whole arm, Jonah, my whole arm, okay? So you can see what's happening. My hand, my wrist, it's actually going in a circle. That's what's happening. Okay, now I'm gonna put the food in the way, all right? That's what's happening. Good, good. Just like that. Okay, so let me show you what I'm not doing. What I'm not doing is this. I'm not doing this. Not doing that. And I'm not doing this either. I'm not just going up and down, up and down. That feels weird to me anyway. No. I'm making a circle motion with my arm, my wrist, everything. That's a circle motion. Remember, fingers should be clawed. Not out there like that and vulnerable. They should be clawed like that. And when you get to the end, there you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of these at once. Okay, a couple of these little celery. Celery's nice to practice with. Okay, so again, clawed hands. This takes some practice, guys. It does. But after a while, you get really good and fast at it. Notice the tip of my knife is not leaving the board. It's not going up and down like this. It's going like this. This never leaves the board. And once you do it, you can get really fast at it. Like that. Okay. And just like anything, just like getting better at sports, getting better at driving, getting better at art, getting better at cutting, you just have to do it more. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So this is just the kind of the basic cut right there. I'm also going to show you, I'm going to show you a bias cut too. Okay, so I have my celery again. This is a full stalk of celery. Bias means diagonal. That's all that means. So I'm going to hold this, and this time, now my knife is at an angle to the celery. So now I get a cut that looks like this. And that's kind of a pretty cut. Okay, so there's a bias cut. All right. Again, the best way to learn is to do it. Again, that motion. That's the motion. That's the motion. My arm. Show me, John. There you go. The whole thing. I'll put something there. That's what's happening. See, it's like circles are happening. Circles. Like a choo-choo train wheel. That's what Alton Brown compares it to. It's like that. Also, don't cut while you're nervous or anxious or angry or in a deep conversation with someone, okay? Because then you're distracted. Cut when you're calm. Don't try to hold a conversation with someone, and don't try to look up. You notice I've been looking down as I cut. When I stop, I look at you. But when I'm cutting, eyes are down. Okay. All right, when we come back, I'm going to show you how to mince. Okay. The next thing I'm going to show you is mincing, or a very, very fine chop. Okay. Mincing happens to things like parsley, garlic, other herbs, things like that. So I have a little bunch of some clean parsley, and whatever vegetables you cut, they should be also dried, okay? Washed and dried. Okay, so I'm going to hold my knife. Now this hand, my other hand, since my dominant hand is my right hand, my left hand is going to come in handy here. This is the motion. My grip is much looser. And these fingers are anchoring down and guiding the front of the knife. Okay, let's see how that looks. Take a view like that. Come over here. Actually, come on the other side. There you go. Just like that. And I keep kind of gathering it back up. But you see, the parsley gets small fast. All right. So that is called mincing. Okay. All right. So now I'm behind the camera. This is my son. He's 17 and he is left-handed. So all the lefties out there, if you want to see how to do this, here's your chance. All right, so he's a good cutter, so go ahead. And he's going to hold his knife same way as I do. And there you go. Claw your fingers. Not taking it to the emergency room, bud. There you go. I'm going to come over here so you can see it happening. So he's just doing the same thing, just with his left hand. But it's the same exact kind of motion as I was doing, just with your opposite hand. All right. Thank you, my dear.
I did it.
Okay, last but not least, you want to clean the knife correctly. First thing is, never put a knife in the dishwasher. Never, 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 never do that. For a variety of reasons. Knives don't belong in the dishwasher. Butter knives are fine, but not your sharp chef's knives. Okay, so here's the knife right here. Now, if this side of the sink were filled with hot soapy water, you would never put the knife down into the hot soapy water, because then you'll forget that it's there, and when you go to pick something up, you'll grab the knife by the blade. That has happened to several of my students over the years. So I always do the knife by itself. So the first thing you're going to do, get the knife wet, hot water. Okay, put a little bit of soap on it. Okay. Get the sponge wet and just give it a nice little cleaning right there. Notice the blade is away from me. It's not towards me, it's away from me. Now I'm going to do the other side. So both sides, okay. Going to rinse it off. Please don't have the sponge on the blade of the knife like this, okay? Students have, look, somebody did that. I wonder who that was. I don't know, it wasn't me. But never have the blade on the sponge like this. So you'll just break the sponge. You'll just place the sponge and probably your hand underneath. Rinse off the soap. And then have your knife over here. Dry your knife. Blade away from you. Dry that blade. Okay. And then put the knife back wherever it goes. Knife board or magnetic strip, or those are the best places for it. By the way, never store your knives. Never store your knives. Come on over here. In the same spot as these guys. Okay. If the sharp knife is in here, that's going to be dangerous. Somebody might reach in there and make a mistake and cut themselves. All right, there you go.